Welcome to the Higher Power Podcast, presented by Higher Power Sports PT, the show dedicated to helping active individuals like you unlock your full potential through expert insights on injury prevention, performance enhancement, and recovery. Kurt Kessler is a board-certified specialist in sports physical therapy and an athletic trainer. In each episode, he and his guests bring you the latest evidence-based strategies to help you move better, feel stronger, and stay injury-free. Let's learn together.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Higher Powered Podcast. Today's episode is exciting for me because we get to tell a real-life success story today. Today's going to be a little different flavor than other episodes to date. Usually my podcasts are educational and I bring people on to share deeper knowledge on PT topics. But today is the first of hopefully many episodes of people who I have been able to help, all different backgrounds and stories, and have found success in this new approach to physical therapy and reaching goals bigger than just getting out of pain. I'm welcoming on my best friend, Logan Crowl, today. And I tell people he's my best friend to get this out of the way first. I did not invite him on here to have him blindly support me and say everything I do works. I told him this last night in a text. I said the goal is to have someone who this process worked perfectly for share and highlight the experience. So let's get into it. Log, thanks for coming on.
Thank you. The people that do know me know that I have no problem calling you out. Normally we're on the same page, but when we're not, we're not.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think it's important for people to understand the history of just everything that has happened, especially pertaining with your knee, because it dates back quite a while. And my thought is that a lot of people out there, whether they're listening to this or not, a lot of people out there have had a major injury in the past and just haven't had the right mixture of interventions to help get them to be as functional as they want to be. So do you mind telling us, just like starting at the, years ago when all this started and how it was managed initially?
Yeah. So the first time it happened was, I think I was like 15 or 16. Never had any issues at all before. I was kind of one of those kids who never had an injury, really, a serious injury. I fractured my ankle once, but that was the only thing. No knee issues. And then one day, were you there down when we were playing football at all those days? Yep.
Yeah.
We were there and somebody just kind of tackled me from the side and I kept trying to run. And I don't know if someone hit me in the knee or if it was just the weight, but I felt, it dislocate. I didn't know what happened at the time. All I knew is that it hurt extremely bad and I couldn't walk after. That was the first time. And then it was really downhill from there really fast. I probably dislocated my knee from the time I was 15 or 16 until the end of high school, maybe 15 times, different degrees, sometimes it would slip out, come right back in, and I could walk after 30 minutes. Other times I was down for a couple days. But largely, I didn't know what was going on. And I was, playing sports at the time. So getting back into that was a lot of PT, but it was a lot of general PT. So I was going there really just trying to strengthen the muscles around the knee is what I was being told at that time. At the time, I was told there was no surgery for it. It was kind of just how you were built. If you look at me from behind, my legs are kind of shaped like an hourglass. I've been told that doesn't help. So it was a strange injury mixed with not a lot of knowledge about how to recoup from it. Mixed with at the time, myself too, not even knowing where else to go other than just general PT. So after that, all the injuries through high school, it still didn't really affect my daily life. I was still hanging out with friends, playing basketball with a brace now, though. That's where it started to change. And I don't know how many basketball games even just you were a part of, where I'd start playing, it'd go out, and I'm done for 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks later, I come back, same thing happens. But then it did escalate in college. Already not taking great care of my body in high school, certainly less at that time of my life. And that mixed with, still playing basketball, still doing sports, it probably dislocated another 15 times in 2 years. Now, when I tell people the total amount of dislocations, I usually tell them at least 30. It's more than that. I've dislocated it on a night out with friends dancing. I've dislocated it at home in the shower. It was a really big problem in my life that affected a lot of different areas.
And your story sounds like so many others that I've heard over the years in whether it's athletic training or physical therapy or whatever it may be. Part of it is, unless you're in this field, it's really hard to either have the information or know the information or know where to find it. So, I mean, you were kind of just going off of the mindset like, it happened again. I'm used to it. But, I know it'll be better in 2 weeks. And then at some point after 2 weeks, it wasn't always better, or you started noticing a new problem creep up. And I think this is the story that most people can tell themselves, or most people can tell others, that I've had this injury, and then over time it either kept happening, or I noticed this change or that change, or whatever the case may be. And, being pretty much by your side for most of these events, dating back to before I had any knowledge in the field, which is kind of crazy to think about. It was one of those things where like we were all so excited to have you play, but at least for me, in the back of my mind, I was like, I'm just waiting for it to happen,
Yeah.
Just a quick side story. We used to have basketball tournaments at my house every year, and we would record them, and we'd have like commentary. And I remember this one time you were on the mic, and someone was either going up for a layup or whatever, and there was a little like landscaped rocks behind the basketball hoop, and someone either slipped in them or fell in them, and you said, and so-and-so just landed in the rocks that I dislocated my knee in.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it was happening very frequently. And then we would go to like these basketball tournaments and fundraiser events or whatever the case may be. And like, you could just tell over time, like you just really didn't trust it. You had the knee brace. Sometimes I would tape you once I was in like athletic training school, whatever the case may be. And we were just trying to get you through. But now, you had this for all these years. What problems were you still having? We'll talk more like the early 2020s, like before surgery became an option, or what kind of problems were you having, and what effect did it have on you?
You touched on it at the end there, but the mental part outweighed the physical part. Certainly in the time you're talking about. I mean, the issues I had were all of them, all the same issues I had growing up. Even when it was happening at its most frequent. The only difference is my lifestyle changed. I stopped doing sports. I stopped playing like competitive sports because I didn't trust it. I basically had to stop doing a lot of the things I like doing. Like running in a straight line is pretty much all I could do, and so that's what I did. But the biggest aspect is mental. Walking down the stairs, making sure I'm always landing on my left foot. Like if it's like a big drop, in the shower, stepping a certain way. If I'm dancing, only shuffling to one side. It's everything. And it creeps up on you, is what people don't realize too. In the same way, like if you don't see someone for a while and you notice they look different, but someone living with them every day might not. I felt that a lot through other people and myself. I would catch myself be like, oh, well, it's not that much worse than when I was 21. To other people, it's obvious the limitations I was dealing with.
Well, and just one observation from that, we were in Pittsburgh. There's a group of us. I think it might have been, gosh, I don't know. We've had so many friends out there get married or have bachelor parties or whatever. And I remember you were walking down the street, and I was behind you, and I was in conversation with someone, but I was just kind of watching you walk. And I noticed that on your affected side, every time you would plant your foot, you would throw that knee back far into extension. And that's one of the body's mechanisms. When you don't have the stability, the best way to get it is to literally lock out your bones, make your ligaments just straight up support the knee, and kind of vault yourself to the next step. And that's what I noticed was going on with you. And, you and I had a conversation about what that might look like in 10, 15 years. I can't remember if at that point you were thinking about or discussing surgery, but I basically approached you at the time and said, listen, I'm starting my own business. I'm doing something a little bit different. If you get to the point where you need something, let me know. And then I think the conversation progressed a little bit to where you were then considering surgery later in the year. That would have been like more fall and winter. So a couple months later. So I guess my question is, if we fast forward to recently or in that time frame, you already said about the limitations you were having. It was having a toll on you mentally. You said what it was preventing you from doing, and just like subtly changing the way that you moved, subtly changing the way that you did things, what you were able to do. You weren't able to play sports like you wanted to or play sports at all. What was your medical care leading up to surgery, and take me through the decision to have it?
Well, I don't think I had been to the doctors in 6 years in general. Any doctor, anyone with a doctor in front of their name. So no, I mean, nothing. That conversation, I think, is what sparked me getting serious about it. So the first thing was going to the doctors and just getting a general, basically just getting him to tell me he doesn't know. And so then you go to the specialists. And typically in the past, when I was doing all my knee stuff in high school when it was first going on, you'd go there and they kind of tell you the same thing. They kind of be like, we also don't know, just do physical therapy. This time, they're pretty confident that they had surgical procedures that would help. But before they could do any of those, they wanted to basically do a scope just to clean up all the knee. I had a lot of damaged cartilage around my knee that was causing pain and catching, and it felt really clunky in there. So after that, I was pretty all in on taking care of it. So once we got the surgery scheduled, did we work before the surgery? Just right after, yeah. Before the surgery, though, I was starting to lift. I was starting to do some basic lifts and getting back into a good routine because I didn't want to come out of the surgery in terrible shape and also have to get in shape and start rebuilding the muscles. So I did a little bit of that work before the surgery, but that was it.
Yeah. And then the plan was for you to have that kind of cleanup procedure and then a second surgery to repair your medial patellofemoral ligament. And then second surgery got denied. Just tell me, like, it felt like you had a perfect plan laid out, and then good old insurance companies had other plans for you.
Yeah. I think it's important to note, too, a big reason I was doing all this at the time was because I had my wedding, and I knew I had to recover enough. I wanted to be able to dance hard at my wedding. I didn't want to have anything there. I didn't want to twist my knee and it ruins the night. I wanted to be able to go to my wedding without any worries. And so the whole experience in general is pretty emotional for me, just because I put pressure on myself, for my wife to be healthy and of solid body at our wedding. And so, yeah, and the hospital I was working with was incredible, but they came back to me and said the second surgery got denied. And when reaching out to, my HR at my job, I was reaching out to the hospital directly. I was reaching out to the insurance company myself. And they denied it because several reasons. And every time I called, I kind of got a different one, if I got one at all. The two that I can recall are, one person told me they don't do any surgery at all regarding the patella. Don't cover that bone.
I don't mean to laugh, but it's just, one, it's ridiculous, and two, the way you tell it is funny.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And I called back and they said the surgery didn't have merit, essentially. They didn't recognize it as a beneficial surgery that had absolute results or enough that they can justify it. And that's despite, a letter and a phone call from the surgeon to the insurance rep. But it's policy. I understand it's policy. It's hard for me to talk more about this without getting pretty extreme.
Well, listen, before we get to that point, I don't think I hide my feelings very well, because I don't try to hide my feelings well for insurance companies. One thing people don't realize is really literally how much of patient care insurance companies dictate. Insurance companies dictate how many visits, well, starting at the beginning, if they're going to pay for something, regardless of whether you or the doctor or whoever believes you really need it, like they have the ultimate choice of if they're going to cover it, and that is going to affect people's decisions, because most people aren't going to be willing to say, oh, I'm just going to do the surgery and not have insurance pay for it and fork over a $30,000, $60,000, whatever $1,000 bill to have it done. So that's one instance. And then you go to follow-up care. If you're doing physical therapy in the insurance world, they dictate how many visits you're approved for. If you run out of those visits, how many more they'll give you. And part of that is I think in a small way, it's good for the PT profession because it should keep us being sharper to try to get people better faster, or be more creative with our visits based on what's absolutely needed. But at the same time, the insurance company's goal is to save money for themselves, not to give people the best care. So if somebody needs care, if somebody has a specific condition, or a doctor does a specific procedure, or if a physical therapist has a specific skill set, the insurance company cares zero about that, because their bottom line is saving money. So if their job is to save money for the insurance company, do you think they're going to send people where they will get the best care? No, they're going to send them where they can get the cheapest care. So that's one thing, just an illustration of how insurance companies dictate care. And it kind of made you shift from a 2-surgery mindset to, okay, I'm only allowed to get what's approved. Then your mindset kind of shifted more to the rehab side. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's not even like I had like an epiphany. It kind of didn't really have a choice. I was boxed in. I mean, it was that or keep doing general PT, which I did alongside of it. But yeah, in a way too, you feel tricked. I have insurance. It's not like I don't have it. It's not like it was like a pre-existing thing that happens sometimes. Yeah, it felt tricked, but it also just gave me a lot of empathy for people with serious medical conditions that aren't being covered. It's just my knee. It's a knee. I don't walk great. I can't run fast, but other people have a lot bigger problems.
Yeah. And so before your surgery, I approached you. As before I started this podcast, you and I actually did the test run for this podcast before I released it. Not this specific one we're recording, but like I wanted to test out the equipment. I wanted to test out the software. And so I said, why don't we do this, and I'll provide you a free education session, and it helps give you the information that you need. It helps me test the equipment that I need for this. And so we did an information session, and I told you that, especially with the second surgery being denied, like I believe, and I knew that you were getting back into lifting and being more active, I believe that what I am doing can help you. And so I guided you throughout that first process, and I told you, and this is not a cash-based PT thing versus insurance. This is not a me versus everybody else thing. I told Logan, once you get the surgery, go to your local outpatient physical therapy place for 6 to 8 weeks, because they're going to be able to give you some hands-on stuff. They're going to be able to provide you, they're going to get your range of motion back. They're going to get you a baseline of strength and movement back. And Logan lives in Pittsburgh. I live in central PA. So we're about 3.5 hours away from each other. So with Logan's case, I didn't see him in person at all. So I needed someone to help him get his range of motion and baseline strength back. So I had him go there, and I looked up places in Pittsburgh. I made some recommendations of what to look for in a therapist, and I can't remember if I gave you specific places or not, but kind of outlined this plan where, yeah, this is necessary. And also for his sake, going to a traditional place that can get you, the same or similar results in 6 to 8 weeks at a little bit less out of pocket, like that's a savvy decision. For people that I work with locally here in person, I'm certainly not saying don't come to me in the first couple weeks, because I still believe that I might be ahead of some certain management techniques compared to the average physical therapist. But for you, yeah, we just needed some hands-on stuff. So when you got into traditional PT, like what were some of the things that you noticed, both, I don't want to say good and bad, but things that were helpful for you? And I know throughout the process, you also mentioned some limitations that you may have noticed as well. So what did surgery or post-surgery rehab look for you in those first couple weeks?
Yeah. So first of all, everyone there was like really great and wanted to help. I would go in the morning before work. So I was going at like 6 in the morning. Yeah. Like 6:30 in the morning. But you go in and you would talk to the main doctor there, the DPT, and he would talk to me like once every 3 sessions. and then, hand me off to somebody else who's taking me through the exercises. But a lot of the basic stuff, the range of motion, sitting on the table, just my legs straight, just tightening the muscles around it, getting comfortable with the knee again. And then slowly, doing like the leg press machines. That was one of the best things about, and still is, about physically going to a general PT stuff, is they still have all the equipment. All the equipment's there for you. And so, I even did go to PT probably an extra couple weeks even than I needed to, just because I liked the equipment. I liked how I could do the heavy weight there and feel secure. And I don't want to cut it too short with my experience, but it was that on repeat for 6 weeks. Not a lot of change, higher weights, more reps. And again, the people cared, but it's kind of where the big bonuses stopped. A lot of the negatives showed up pretty fast, which were just not you're not getting one-on-one time. I'm being passed around. People would literally forget about me. And, I've worked out off and on my whole life, so I'm comfortable with working out and routine. So a lot of times I didn't need it, and I would just start the next exercise without them. But then sometimes I'm not doing the right weight because they didn't tell me to go up in weight. So a lot of times I felt like I had to manage myself there. And then on top of that, I would get conflicting reports from two people that are working there in the same room. Like one would come over and tell me something, walk away. Someone would come over and correct what that person just told me to do. I got the sense they're very busy, and it's kind of like at a restaurant when you're sitting around too long at a table. It's like, you got to get out so we can get more people in here. It felt like that a little bit. So while I enjoyed going there because I could feel my knee getting better, I was experiencing less pain doing all the motions they were having me go through, I did feel like I hit a wall pretty quickly.
Yeah, and a couple things I want to reiterate. This is Logan giving his own experience. I knew a little bit about it because we had, as best friends, and in this process, me trying to help him, we talked about these things. So I want anybody listening to know this is not a crap on traditional PT session here. That's not what this is about. But it's very clinic dependent on what your experience is going to be. And again, not even saying that the place he went was not good. It's just that it's just the common landscape in traditional physical therapy right now, is that volume is the driver of a lot of care, because one, there are a lot of people that need physical therapy, and there's not enough PTs to work one-on-one with everybody who needs physical therapy. But also just, and I've told my story a million times, it just drove me nuts when I would have 3 or 4 people that I'm managing and I felt like I couldn't give any one of them my best. So, we talk about one-on-one care. There are people that, for their issue might be satisfied with that experience. There might be some people who, and we'll get into this in a second here, but their goal might be just get out of pain. But just understanding what each setting is built for is the awareness that I'm trying to create. So you and I not had this plan to work together, you probably would have continued at PT for maybe another 2 to 3 weeks, and then possibly you can tell me, I'm just guessing.
Probably longer, honestly, just because I wouldn't know what else to do. I probably would have been there for quite a while. Yeah.
And so that's if insurance was willing to do that. But what tends to happen is, once someone's able to do the things they need to throughout their day, once someone is dealing with relatively low pain levels or stable pain levels or out of pain completely, when insurance reviews those progress notes, they'll see this person is not in much pain. Oh, this person can do what they need throughout the day. They can stand up, they can get in bed, they can do whatever. Insurance really doesn't care if your strength is equal to the other side. They don't really care if someone like Logan can get back into physical activity. They just need to know that you can survive on your own throughout the day. So at some point he would have gotten cut off, probably when his pain stopped, or probably when he had full range of motion and was able to show a baseline of strength. So Logan, your huge goal, your big goal was to be able to dance at your wedding. And then there were some other, we'll call them smaller goals, like I want to be able to run again. I want to be able to lift weights. I want to be able to do some of these movements that I have been afraid of for years. I want to be able to do those without worrying about it. So when we were about to start, like, I can explain what a process is going to be like, but until you experience it yourself, I'm sure some things can sound a little bit abstract, especially because, you know, it's a little bit unheard of to receive physical therapy remotely. And I don't just mean like telehealth visits, but like have someone actually manage your whole plan of care, manage your whole routine program for progressive overload strengthening. So did you have any thoughts regarding receiving care in a much different way when I approached you about it? Or even like, you know, you're finishing up at traditional physical therapy and about to be handed over to me. Like, did you have any thoughts or even like concerns about the remote process or not having hands-on and, you know, receiving just more guidance for progressions and feedback and stuff like that? Like, what were your thoughts on trying something very different than what's mainstream, trying something different, but potentially more specific to you?
Yeah, I was thinking a lot about this last night. I felt a lot of things about it. I felt all pieces of everything you just said. I was a little worried, not about your program or anything, because I know you would never sell anything to me that you weren't confident in, but really just like my own ability to do all the exercises correctly. I was like a little worried about, and just, this is probably exposing more parts of myself, but I have trouble when I'm thinking about working out or exerting physical energy. Like, if I'm not pushing as hard as I can, like a heavy weight, I don't feel like I'm doing a lot. And so moving away from PT with all their equipment, where I could do some of that stuff, I was a little worried about. But I also largely just didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how it was different. I'd only ever done the generalized PT. So I really wasn't sure what to expect. I knew there was going to be, you know, smaller movements is how I would say them. Which again goes back to, like, I don't know if it's a dumb ego thing or what, but being like, doing that small movement on my knee, why would I do that when I could do squats? So I was like, I had to get over that, but that was all the stuff that was kind of on my mind getting into.
All right. And then from my perspective, so me at the beginning of this, I was like, okay, I'm going to get Logan in here because I know that he's going to do what it is that he's going to stick to the plan. And that's a big part of it, because it's going to be hard for somebody to be successful who is not consistent. It's going to be hard for someone to be successful that's not fully bought in. And I knew that you were. I knew that you would be. On my end, how I work and how I operate, I took Logan's big goal of wanting to be able to dance at the wedding. The other thing, you had mentioned this earlier, you had kind of taken the steps to prepare for this in advance. So it's not like we had, oh crap, we got 3 weeks and we got to figure this out. Logan gave himself enough runway. He had the surgery in December of 24. And then we started working together in February, but I was still giving you some guidance, you know, prior to that. I think we started working together in February, and his wedding was just a month ago, September 12th. September 13th. And so we had like a 7-month runway, and you know, part of this was him being forward thinking. Part of it was me like saying, listen, if this is the big goal, this is the time that we're going to need here. And a lot of people are going to say 7 months, holy cow. Like, you know, typically I'm in PT for like 6 weeks or, you know, 8 weeks or 10 weeks, whatever the case may be. But what I'm trying to do for people is get them to reach their big goals. And sometimes, depending on where the starting point is, for Logan, it was years of chronic pain and injury and a surgery. So we needed a little bit longer runway to get him to that point. So I took his big goal of dancing at his wedding, and then I broke it up into smaller milestones. Okay, what do we need to do to dance? We need to be able to put weight on that leg. We need to be able to pivot. We need to be able to change direction quickly. We need to be able to do repetitive motions and repetitive stepping, repetitive loading on that knee, and not have to think about it. So then I backed that up. We did different variations of plyometrics. Before that, we were doing months of just progressive strengthening of all the things that we measured that he needed. And then before that, we were doing some baseline, just like baseline strength building exercises so that we could do the more complex movements. And then in between that, like every once in a while, he'd pop up with some kind of discomfort or some kind of pain or whatever. And I would give him a little remedy for that, and it worked. And then stepping it back all the way to the beginning, the very first thing I had you do, actually while you were still in PT, was I had you do some strength testing, right leg versus left leg, while they had equipment so I could see where you were starting. And then I had him do a remote movement screen. So the same movement screen I have people do when they're sitting in front of me, I had him do virtually, and he goes on the app, he inputs what he's feeling, where he's feeling it. He uploads videos of him doing it so I can analyze it. And it was the first time I had gone through this process, and I remember I was sitting at the computer, like watching all your movements, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome for me. This is awesome for me because I can sit there, I can rewind things, I can slow them down, I can see what's really happening. And in some ways, it was almost better for me to do that virtually than in person. Now, I can still take out my phone, I still use a slow-mo, whatever, but like just having the time to really dissect that, say, okay, this is what's happening, this is what needs to happen, these are the muscles that we need to work on to get that to happen. And then I was able to build a very specific program from there on forward. So that was my side of it. That's how I approached it. Start at the big goal and work backwards and then determine a timeline. For you, there were, like I said, there were times where you would pop up with a little discomfort here, a little something here. What was your experience or your response like bringing that to me? And it's all done through the True Coach app. So he would even just take videos of himself talking and then point to the spots on his knee where he was feeling it. He would describe what he was feeling, and then we'd be able to go back and forth that way. So what was it like receiving care from that perspective for things that would pop up along the way?
Maybe the most like impressive to me part of the whole thing we did in the whole program was that whenever little things would come up, the ability to show you, and sometimes within 5 minutes you're responding on the app, like sometimes even before my next set you would respond. But yeah, I mean, that was huge. I mean, being able to point to exactly where on my knee something's happening, and then to do the movement again to show you, or to show you like a variation of the movement that hurts and why I'm not doing a certain way. Yeah, I mean, I was really impressed with that. I mean, the communication, we communicate pretty well normally already, but we didn't rely on that because we didn't have to, because it works so well, which I think says a lot. You know, I easily could have texted you everything and videoed you everything, and we didn't, because I kept it really organized. It's nice how it does that. But yeah, I mean, it was great, especially when we got into more of like the plyometrics where I wasn't comfortable. Being able to show you the exact movement and how I'm landing, it really made a difference, especially that you could look at it and just this stuff I never would think about. Like you're pointing out like where my hip, like how my hip's aligned, or that my foot isn't under me enough, and that's why I might be feeling it a certain way. And to be able to send a video right back was super helpful.
Yeah. And, you know, again, on my end, what's super helpful is that he uploads a video and it will stay in we'll call it his chart or his file or whatever. It will stay right in that date, in that workout, so that I can go back and review it. So I can have him do the same exercise 4 weeks later and compare what it looks like 4 weeks ago to now. So that's like one really cool feature. And then just I have people give a comment after most exercises, or exercises where they either need more guidance or feeling something or whatever. And so then I pull up this, when I bring it up on the screen, I can see like the whole calendar of this person's workouts, and I can see each comment they made. What I've done, even with people recently, sometimes it's really easy for me to get so focused on the day-to-day results and I lose sight of the big picture, where in a traditional setting, I would just be thinking someone's not getting any better. But I can go back like 3-4 weeks, see what their responses were to those exercises. So someone I'm working with right now, dealing with knee pain as well, 3 or 4 weeks ago, they were saying, oh, when I do this exercise, it's a 2 or 3 out of 10 pain. I have slight discomfort here, and here, whatever. And then to look 5-6 weeks later, now they're like, no pain, just a little tight, or felt pretty good today on this one. Like being able to have a running log where I can really see someone's response to specific movements or certain exercises or their whole program in general. One, it allows me to analyze the factors that go into that. Maybe someone had a really hectic week, really busy week. They try to do more on their own or try to go for a run or whatever. And it helps just create a more complete picture of the story that's unfolding in front of us. And so for you, it was just really cool. Now, you're probably the easiest patient I'll ever have because everything in the process went so smooth. So like it was really rewarding to look back a month ago and say, okay, you were doing this many reps and this is what your form looked like. And now you're doing this many reps more and your form looks even better. And it worked out so well for you. And then, I'm going to, as we're talking here, I'm laying video over top of what this looks like on my end and what Logan's talking about. So if you're watching on YouTube or on Spotify, like you can kind of go through the experience with us and kind of see what we're talking about. So in addition to just that like quick feedback or troubleshooting some little pain things that popped up, actually one realization I had, I can still remember it. It was when you were having a little discomfort near your scar, and I gave you a couple things to do for that. But
I still can't get over that.
I remember where I was sitting there, and I can still remember the video in my head, and I sat there and was like, wow, this is pretty awesome because like before it was all like I had to be in front of you, I had to have hands on in order to make this difference, but now I could show someone what to do. I can show someone, empower someone that you don't always need my hands. You just need my brain sometimes. And so you were able to do that on yourself and overcome some of those little bumps in the road. But other than that, what worked well for you? What features of the whole program and the experience did you enjoy? Were there any moments in the recovery process that stood out to you?
I wanted to say too quick on the little thing, like the remedy you gave me for the knee, the tightness around the scar. That was one of the biggest things too with doing PT with you was I had so many, yes, I have the large knee issue of the general stability, but so many little issues that just made it uncomfortable. The almost like itchiness, tightness on the scar. The remedy you gave me was to put lotion on a butter knife and scrape it. I would have lived with that feeling in my knee for years, and had been at different points in my life. Started doing that every day. Within a week, like my knee felt less congested. Before, it felt like there was like spaghetti in it, just all tangled up. It felt like it was like smoothed out. So I just want to make sure I touched on like the small things too, because mentally they were just as important. Even though my knee was feeling stronger, I would still feel all these little like staticky things in my knee that I knew it wasn't a normal knee. No matter what I did, I wasn't being tricked yet into thinking it was a normal knee. And so many of the little things we did through the apps and to help him feel more comfortable were just as big as the overall goal to me. But largely with the apps that are not just the program in general, that worked for me. You touched on it earlier, but being able to stay consistent with it was the biggest thing. And what allowed me to do that was that it was remote and virtual. I was never meeting you at a time every day. I work from home 24/7. I have for years now. Anyone that knows me knows I love it. They know that I love that, just being able to be flexible day to day, so there wasn't one day that I wasn't able to find the 45 minutes needed to do it. And some days, not every day was 100%. Some days I might not have been able to do the last rep for whatever reason. I was tired and I didn't eat yet that morning, but like it gave me the ability to do it consistently. And that's what I noticed. I would go, there'd be occasionally I would text you and say, hey, I can't do this today. I'm going to do a double workout Thursday. I would miss that. Like, missing that workout after doing it for so long, I would miss it because my knee didn't get those reps that day. And I would feel the mental part maybe not go down, but it would stay. But every day I would do those little things. They really built up over each other. Just the being able to do it, I'm at my office desk where I work. Right behind me is the gym. And I'm fortunate I kind of have a big space, but that was another thing is you didn't need a big space. We would travel and go to Kat's family's house and I'd be able to do it there. I went to Toledo for work a couple times during that thing. I was able to do it in the home gym. I did a small thing in the hotel room one night. So, I mean, that was the big thing is the flexibility of it let me be consistent.
And that's really cool. A couple of things I want to highlight there. One, this worked really well for Logan because he's very self-motivated. He was very committed. He was very consistent with it. There are some people who are going to need that accountability in the form of showing up somewhere physically. So if that was the case for Logan and we just weren't getting the buy-in and he would tell me like, I say if he told me that like, I just need to go somewhere physically to do this or else I'm not going to do it, then I would say, okay, then this plan is not going to be appropriate for you. You're not going to get the result you want working with me. Let's go find someone else who's going to help you get that. But for Logan, he was able to not only just do it on his own, but he was able to enjoy the flexibility that comes with it. And the other thing that I want to highlight here is that Logan mentioned his program was like 45 minutes. Now that's not the case for everybody. For Logan specifically, we were trying to work on really strength training, really building up some different movement patterns. And for him, that's what he was looking for. There are a lot of people who either don't have a 45-minute pocket of time to devote to rehab every day. So for other people, they might need something different. And we program for something that's going to take 20 minutes a day or 25 or 30, whatever they have and whatever they need. For Logan, the things that we wanted to work on and his goals and his time availability, that's what worked for him. So not every single person that I work with gets a 45-minute program. I would say very few people do, but for Logan and his goals, that's what was programmed for him. What were some of the big milestones that you noticed along the way or some of the realizations you had? I got to see them based on your feedback in the app. Like I can think of two instances when we started preparing for plyometric work. One was like a little step down or a hop down from a step. And your first response was that actually went a lot better than I thought. I was nervous for it and it went well. So like what kind of things like that did you notice? Any major achievements that stood out to you?
Yeah, so I mean, that was the first thing I thought about. And that movement, I mean, it sounds so funny to say now, but like it's just stepping down from like a 10-inch, 12-inch step, landing on my right leg. And that was actually all it was at first. It was just jumping down and just landing on my leg. But I was terrified. I was terrified to start those. Or similar, like the ones, even after I got over that, I was like, oh, okay, my knee's not going to explode on impact with the ground. But then, you would add the step down into a hop, step down into a cut to the right, cut to the left. And that was like the biggest mental win for me, I think, during the program was like these movements before that. Anytime I would even do them or think about doing them, it's like a series of all the times I dislocated my knee in my head doing that movement. But yeah, I remember specifically doing the one where you step down and then you cut to the left. And I remember doing that and like I got a shiver in my shoulders the first time because one of the common patterns of me dislocating my knee is on a hard cut when like my shoulders are moving before my lower half of my body and then it's kind of dragging behind and it dislocates. And we're doing that and feeling my shoulders move and just like feeling a similar pattern to what I remembered gave me like a shiver down my spine because I was so scared. So, I mean, that was a huge win. But then like running down the stairs. So I have two cats, like running down the stairs and being able to jump off like the last step and land on my right leg and not think twice about it. I mean, that didn't come until late in the program. Probably 3 months ago. But that was huge. And then even just like little stuff, if my wife's in the living room and like I go to wrestle her, like not having to worry about how I'm landing on the couch because my leg's like a little twisted and I'm afraid, or stepping over like just stuff around the house. Like if you're at a weird angle trying to pick something up, like I would never be using my right leg for that. I would always use my left. And so now just being able to do like little stuff like that, those were all like milestones. Sounds funny because they're little things, but those little things really catapulted me to go forward and really trust it.
Yeah. And I want to highlight, and this is not a pat on my back, this is just a look in the window of my brain, the specificity of the program. Like, I didn't ask him to go from like doing a double leg squat to, oh, okay, let's like go out and start cutting. It was a gradual process over the course of months. And again, Logan being consistent, gradual process over the course of months that, one, gave his body the ability to do that because we were changing his movement patterns, and two, slowly building the confidence to do that. If I had him doing that without building him up to that in any capacity, like, one, he would have been even more scared, and two, I can't guarantee, well, I can never guarantee a result, but I can't guarantee what would have happened there. But because I knew that you had built the requisite strength and the requisite movements to do that motion, that's what allowed you to get to that point. And when I knew you were there physically, that's when I would program it. When I knew that you would have success with it, that is when I programmed it. And so then at that point, it's not about anything physically. It becomes mental. It becomes the mental aspect of doing movements and performing in sport and performing in exercise. So the takeaway I want people to hear is it's not just like, you know, Chat GPT, give me an exercise program. Like, we are breaking this down movement by movement and building up those movement patterns so that we get to the point where we don't even have to work on it physically. We just have to work on it mentally. And then you get enough reps, and then over time that becomes not scary anymore. And then over time, then we progress to a higher level thing. I had you start going for a run. I had you pick up the intensity or the speed or whatever the case may be, so that you felt confident with whatever situation you and your knee were faced with. And then we fast forward to the big goal, which was getting you to dance at your wedding, you know, relatively unpredictable environment, and your knee is going to need to be able to react to that. So again, we take the big goal, we cut it down into smaller goals and what you need to do to get to that point, and you put in the work. And then, you know, I'm going to throw up a video here on the screen of the end result here. And so I'm putting this on the screen now. We reached the goal. And then if you look at this video, does this look like someone who is afraid to move? And so I'm standing there as I'm taking this video, and, you know, everyone's like dancing, having a good time. Like, it was a really fun weekend. And I'm just sitting there in this moment, maybe one minute, 2 minutes, and I'm watching this unfold in front of me. And I think back to the start of your program. I think back to, you know, the first time I had you do a little hop, the first time I had you cut, all this stuff that led up to this moment. And it was very rewarding for me to not only just, like, you know, get a text or whatever that, hey, I was able to do this, which is awesome, but I got to be there 2 feet away from you, achieving the goal that we set out 7 months prior. And that was super rewarding for me. And I just remember sitting in that moment thinking, man, we did it. We did this together, and you got the result that you wanted. So it was just very, very fulfilling for me.
And assuming, because I can't see, assuming the video that just played was me dancing to Love Shack.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. I can guarantee you I was not thinking about the knee at all. There was no hesitation at all in that moment of time.
So
I also wanted to add, if you don't mind, a quick story about like doing the little things over months and months and months. One of the first times I injured my knee, it might have been the first time. And I went, the first time I had surgery on my knee in high school, back home, and I went to PT. I remember it was the last day of my physical therapy, and I had to do basically like a test to make sure I was like good to graduate or whatever. the PT took me in the back hall, and we had done zero running. I think the most we did at that point was me like shuffling on a treadmill, and not fast. And it was my last day, and they take me in the back, and they're like, "All right, last test we want to do on you." And they're like, "Sprint down the hallway and cut as hard as you can off your right leg." And I thought he was joking. I looked at him and was like, and he was like, "What?" He's like, "You don't think you can do it?" I was like, and I mean, at the time, you kind of had to know me, but like, I would never admit I couldn't do anything. So I run down and like kind of gingerly cut, and he was like, "Was that 100%?" And I was like, "No." And he was like, "200." But the point was, I was not ready. And I wasn't ready because of all those little things. And if someone's listening to this experiencing the kind of chronic pain I did for years, all of those little workouts that you're doing, like you were just saying, build, and they let you hit the bigger workouts or the bigger goals that you're doing. And so much of that over the last 15 years with this injury have been me ignoring a lot of the smaller things that can make my knee more comfortable, that would allow it to do the bigger movements. And through this whole program, I mean, that's been the biggest thing I'll change going forward, is doing that stuff to activate those muscles in my knee to feel more comfortable. I just think that's important to say. If someone's listening, experiencing similar things, don't ignore that stuff, because it led to more injuries and a longer recovery for me in the past.
Yeah, and that's really important, and I'm glad you shared that story, because it still makes us both laugh. Yeah, that's not how things happen here.
The audacity of it.
All right, so I want to wrap a bow on this here. In your experience, who do you feel like this service is right for? Who do you feel like would benefit from something similar to you experienced, a fully remote program?
So I mean, like you said, there's not going to be anyone there. So you have to be self-motivated to some extent. My motivation was pretty easy. My wedding was really important to me. We talked about some of my history. I had no other place to go, frankly. But also, you have to be seriously wanting to fix the injury we're talking about. And it sounds silly to say, because I'm sure if you asked me 5 years ago or 10 years ago, I'd say I seriously want to fix. But you have to know what you're signing up for, and you have to trust the program, because there's going to be days or even weeks. Sometimes I would open up the workout for the day and I'd be like, well, this seems kind of easy. What's the point of flexing my knee 30 times? But I did it. And the week after doing it, it's like, it does feel different. It does feel stronger. And so trusting the program, trusting your own body. But it's weird. I mean, I don't think I would have been as successful with another person. One, because of the trust I have in you, but also the competitive nature of me with you is like, there's no way I was going to fail at this. So almost in spite of myself, I had a lot of success in this program. But yeah, I mean, you kind of have to be just sick of the life you're leading because of your injuries. That's really, that was really the final straw with me. Was I was just sick of it. Just sick of altering my daily life, saying no to things, saying no to a long walk because my knee hurts. I wanted to do better for myself so I could do better for the people around me.
Yeah, that is so important, because the stories of people that I work with, or the stories, someone's not going to invest the amount of money for this type of service. We talked a little bit about outpatient physical therapy, utilizing insurance, your copay, whatever, sending you to wherever the insurance company is going to pay the least amount of money. To invest in a service like this, that's one-on-one, ultra specific to solving a specific problem, you have to have some level of self-motivation to be successful. And the problem has to be big enough that you're willing to invest in yourself. And the mindset that you had of, I want to be better for myself so that I can be better for those around me, is something very common that I see and that people doing the same type of work as I do, that's very common for what we see is you just get to a point where you're tired of dealing with whatever issue you are. And now I've dealt with it so long, or it's preventing me from doing something that makes me happy. Now it's a big enough problem that I'm going to do something about it. So while I would strongly recommend not letting it get to the point where it's this huge life-altering problem, at the same time, like that's often what we see is it's a big enough problem that I'm willing to invest in myself. What would you say to someone who's on the fence about doing therapy in a way that's different than the traditional system? Like what would you tell someone who like this can be something that's very abstract. So what would you say to someone who's like, I'm not so familiar with it. I'm not, I don't know what to expect from it. What would you say to someone who's kind of on the fence there?
I would probably ask them what injury they're dealing with and why they think they still have it. Because if you still have it and you've been doing either nothing or the general PT stuff or whatever you're doing to cope with it daily, you don't have anything to lose. And like it's easy for me to say now because I've gone through it. So it's hard to think about what I would say to someone who hasn't. But I mean, like I had results in 2 weeks. Even if, even if someone wouldn't have the 100% success that I have had doing it, if I had 50% of what I gained, it was like, it's worth it. And it's not even close because so many of the daily issues I had aren't daily issues. I have more time. I have more optimism every day. Like it was such a big weight lifted off spending, I spent 45, but 30 minutes a day. I could have got through those workouts probably if I really wanted to. So, I mean, what I would say is if nothing has worked for you in the past, at least try something new and don't be afraid to. It's not going to be worse. Your injury's not going to get worse. And there's not anything I could think of that someone doesn't do this program doesn't take one or two things away with it that they can.
Yeah. We talked about this a little bit already, but if someone is either concerned or, on the fence about, well, how much impact can somebody have if they're not right in front of me? Or what if I have a problem? What if something pops up and they're, I can't go into PT the next day. I'm fully remote with Kurt. Like what would you say to someone who's not sold or not sure what to think about that aspect?
I would. It's funny because so many of my answers are a little snarky that I have to dial back. So if you want to cut this out, you can. Sorry, what was the question?
If someone was on the fence about not understanding the value of the remote care, or if someone had something pop up and they were concerned about not going to someone physically to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of crazy to me in this day and age. I mean, think about all the things you do remotely, even if it's not work. You communicate with your friends, your family, you have serious discussions over, like, the whole thing about being remote these days is kind of moot. We have the technology, use it. It's only going to give you back time that you're driving somewhere. It's only going to give you back money that you're putting on gas to get somewhere. So I don't see any reason for that at all. You have everything you need in something you're already carrying every day, which is your cell phone.
Yeah.
I also find it's funny that on the Higher Power podcast, we're going to talk about things you can't see and having faith in them.
True.
This program adds up.
That's true. That's a wonderful point.
Yeah.
The thing that I tell people is that when you're doing traditional therapy, like they'll give you stuff to work on at home in between, but there's no follow-up on it. There's nobody checking your response on it. If you have something pop up at home while you're doing your home program, like, are you calling your physical therapy office like right away and getting feedback? So the thing, and you utilize this perfectly, like something small pops up, send me a message, send me a video, and then like right there, as soon as I have time in my day, sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes that's an hour, sometimes it's a few hours, but you're going to get that same day response of this kind of popped up. What do I do for it? Or leaving feedback on the exercises so that I don't want you to wait until the next visit to have to solve this problem and sit in this problem and do something potentially incorrectly. So I'm giving that feedback as soon as possible so that we can make that change as soon as possible. And I think that's the thing that I highlight is, like, I'd say it's confidence in your pocket. Like, you don't have to if you want to go for a run and you're like, hey, I want to go for a run today. What do you think about that? Like, the guidance is right there. Just send me a message. That's not going to happen in the traditional setting because that's not what it's set up to do.
Yeah, it is huge. And on that point too, how many times in life do you think of something and then by the time the opportunity to present it comes up, it's less of a deal than you thought it was, and so you don't bring it up. And then it comes up again, but then 2 days later you'd see that person and you don't bring it up because it's not a big deal. I did that a lot with my injuries, and it's probably bit me, come back to bite me a little bit. With this, it's great because even if by the next day it felt better, we've already addressed it. So the next time it comes up, I know what to do.
Yes, the empowering mindset that I try to bring with that. Last thing I want to touch on here, to someone who's concerned about the financial investment, we talked about getting to the point where you hate something so much that now I have to make a change. I'll say this, for someone who is fully remote, if you break it down like cost by week, it's actually probably about the same or less than a copay. If the average copay is between $20 and $50 and you're going multiple times a week to PT, that might be, $60 to $150 per week. This is similar, if not less, depending on what that is. So fully remote is more touch points for less, less time spent in the clinic. For someone who's doing either in-person or the hybrid program where they are doing the remote stuff on their own, getting that guidance, but also coming in to see me in person, that adds up just a little bit because of the individual visits that are priced more reflective of one-on-one care versus the outpatient setting where there are a lot of people running around. So the plan or the price or the commitment financially varies quite a bit depending on the case and what the goals are. But just in general thoughts, someone who's not sure about making the financial commitment, what would you have? What response or what advice would you have on that?
Yeah, and we talked about this when I was signing up with you, but the cost was virtually the same as if I would have continued doing the general PT. It's a hard question for me to ask because I thought about the cost so little while I was doing it, because it was so worth it to me. But also in a way, I was probably recouping some money. I was still dislocating or hurting my knee probably before this whole program once every other month, whether it was a small tweak or not. And sometimes that resulted in me, not walking to dinner and then I'm ordering DoorDash, or not doing something else and feeling lazy, or I'm in pain today, I'm going to order food in. Most of my money being spent is ordering DoorDash. Let's be real. But yeah, the cost was not something I thought about at all because it was so worth it every day. And I was already paying it to general PT, so the switch over was easy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the main thing in your case with being fully remote. The financial commitment really wasn't much different. And the other thing is that when you're getting the results that you want, like, oftentimes the financial component becomes less important. When you're getting the result, it's when people are standing at the front and they're not sure if investing this money is going to get them the result. And I'll sit here, I will be completely human, completely honest. There are people that I have worked with that have not gotten the result that we have desired for them. I will say they are very few and far between, but it has happened. I am not perfect. And those cases are the ones that really sit with me and burn inside of me and drive me to get better so that less people experience that. It's really easy for me to have Logan come on here because, like I said earlier, he's probably the easiest case I'll ever have because everything just went so smooth. but I'm willing to bet there are more people out there that just need guidance. They just need the right guidance. They just need the right plan. And I'm very confident in my ability and the abilities that I have been given to help people reach those goals, or at least make a positive difference into getting them much closer to that. I am human. I am not perfect. Not 100% of the people I work with fully get to the finish line that they want to get to, but a vast majority of the people that work with me have. And so, yeah, if there's something that is really bothering you, if there's something that you're starting to hate so much because it's stealing from you, please, please, please take this. Don't take my word for it. Take Logan's word for it. Take the next couple that are about to come out. Take their word for it, and take a step and invest in the potential for a greater outcome. If you're looking to do that, you can find my information in the show notes. You can find my email. You can find the Instagram handle, and really just let's start looking at this and find a way to get you to your finish line. Logan, thank you so much for coming on here, not just for your time, not just for your best friendship, but for supporting me and all that I do, and also just giving your real life perspective on how this worked for you. Thank you very much.
No problem. I had a great time. And I will say too, if I had a best friend that had a service asking me to come on and do all this stuff and be the guinea pig for his program, and I would hate it. But because it works so well, and it's you, but mainly because it works so well, I have not thought twice about doing any of this stuff. It's going to pay. It is already paid for itself, both with the time I invested in the money, and it's continuing still every day to pay off. So thank you. And yeah, no problem.
Awesome. That's going to do it for today's episode. Like I said, if you're looking for ways to connect with me, you can find my email and information in the show notes. Find me on Instagram at Higher Power Sports PT. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Higher Powered Podcast, presented by Higher Powered Sports PT. We hope you gained valuable insights on how to stay strong, move better, and prevent injury, all backed by expert knowledge in sports physical therapy and athletic training. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Your support helps us bring more evidence-based tips and strategies to active individuals just like you. For more resources or to connect with us, head over to hpsportspt.com. That's hpsportspt.com. Remember, you've got the power to perform at your best. Keep training smarter, recovering faster, and living stronger. Just a reminder that the content shared in this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It should not be considered medical advice. Always consult with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your health or treatment plan. Thanks for tuning in. We hope to see you next time on the Higher Powered Podcast.